Good day to everyone joining us today, and welcome to this session titled Mainstreaming Green Growth and Climate Change in AfDB's Interventions, Coherence, Policy Gaps, and Adaptation Needs. This event is part of the Evidence for Climate Action Pavilion at COP30 and is organized by Independent Development Evaluation at the African Development Bank. Before we begin, I'd like to inform you that you can access English or French interpretation by clicking on the globe icon on your Zoom toolbar. And please use the chat to share comments and to post questions to our speakers. We'll try to respond to as many of them as we can during the session. So let me now introduce our speakers for today. First, we have Mr. Joseph Mwanda, the Chief Evaluation Officer at IDEV, who will share key findings and lessons from IDEV's evaluation of mainstreaming green growth and climate change in AfDB's operations. He'll be followed by Ms. Davina Milenge-Wela, the Chief Program Coordinator, Climate Change and Green Growth Department at AfDB. And Davina will bring operational perspectives on how these findings are informing current and future climate initiatives within the bank. I will post the full bios of our speakers in the chat so that you can be able to see more about their work and experience. So for now, I would like to invite Mr. Joseph Mwanda to make his presentation. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you, Christine. Bonjour ou bon après-midi à toutes et à tous. Aujourd'hui, j'aimerais aborder une question centrale. Dans quelle mesure la Banque africaine de développement intègre-t-elle efficacement la croissance verte et l'action climatique, non seulement dans ses intentions stratégiques, mais aussi dans les décisions quotidiennes qui orientent la conception des projets, les choix d'investissement et les résultats de développement. Pour répondre à cette question, nous avons mené une évaluation approfondie couvrant une décennie d'intervention de la BAD. Et ce que notre évaluation a évalué, ce sont des interventions de la BAD entre 2008 et 2018. Nous avons examiné la manière dont le changement climatique et la croissance verte ont été intégrés dans les stratégies institutionnelles et plans d'action, dans la programmation pays et sectorielle, dans la conception, la mise en œuvre et le suivi des projets. Nous avons utilisé une approche méthodologique mixte et plusieurs sources de données probantes, incluant l'analyse documentaire, l'examen du portefeuille, des études de cas, des évaluations des résultats de projets et une évaluation groupée. Il est important de noter également que cette évaluation a directement contribué à éclairer le nouveau cadre stratégique de la BAD sur le changement climatique et la croissance verte, ce qui signifie que les conclusions ont déjà influencé l'orientation future dans le domaine de la croissance verte et du changement climatique. Je crois que... Voilà. Je vais un peu aborder le contexte climatique africain. L'Afrique, comme vous le savez, ne contribue qu'à environ 4% des émissions mondiales, mais elle subit certaines des conséquences climatiques les plus sévères. Des sécheresses plongées dans la corne de l'Afrique aux inondations dévastatrices en Afrique centrale, en passant par les cyclones qui détruisent les infrastructures et les moyens de subsistance. Dans le même temps, le continent ne reçoit qu'environ 3% du financement climatique mondial, alors que les besoins d'adaptation en Afrique subsaharienne sont estimés entre 30 et 50 milliards de dollars américains par an. Ce décalage représente plus qu'un défi climatique. Il reflète une inégalité structurelle dans la réponse mondiale.
Joseph, we can't hear you. I think your internet has fluctuated.
Ce qui fonctionne.
Okay.
L'évaluation a révélé que, allô, apparemment la connexion c'est bon, la connexion est bonne.
Yes,
Vous
we can
m'entendez?
hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Continue. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sur ce qui fonctionne, l'évaluation a révélé que, premièrement, la Banque africaine de développement a démontré un engagement stratégique fort pour lutter contre le changement climatique et promouvoir une croissance verte. Les cadres politiques, y compris les plans d'action sur les changements climatiques, l'approche de transition vers la croissance verte et les I5 placent clairement la résilience climatique et la durabilité au cœur du mandat de la banque. Ainsi, l'orientation stratégique est pertinente, la vision est solide et l'institution a déjà défini une trajectoire claire vers un développement aligné sur le climat. Le défi consiste désormais à garantir que cet engagement soit pleinement et systématiquement traduit dans les pratiques opérationnelles. Deuxièmement, la part des projets approuvés par la banque, identifiés comme liés au climat, a augmenté avec un accent plus prononcé sur l'atténuation que sur l'adaptation. Troisièmement, la collaboration avec les fonds climatiques mondiaux et les partenaires au développement s'est renforcée. Enfin, l'une des conclusions majeures est que les projets obtiennent des meilleurs résultats lorsque les considérations de résilience climatique et de croissance verte sont intégrées dès le début, au stade de conception et d'élaboration. Les projets ayant évalué les risques climatiques en amont et intégré des mesures d'atténuation ou de croissance verte dès le départ ont généré des résultats plus durables, innovants et rentables. Le schéma est ainsi clair. Lorsque les considérations climatiques sont ajoutées tardivement, après les décisions de conception, les ajustements deviennent coûteux, fragmentés et moins efficaces. Par contre, lorsqu'elles sont intégrées en amont, elles renforcent la qualité des projets, leur durabilité et les bénéfices pour les communautés. Concernant les points à améliorer, l'évaluation a constaté un écart de mise en œuvre. Bien que la proportion des projets liés au climat ait augmenté, l'atténuation a reçu davantage d'attention que l'adaptation, alors que cette dernière constitue une priorité urgente pour de nombreux pays africains. L'évaluation a également révélé des variations entre les secteurs. Dans le secteur de l'énergie, l'intégration des principes de climat et de croissance verte est plus cohérente. Dans le secteur des transports, cette intégration est moins systématique, notamment en ce qui concerne la conception résiliente aux risques climatiques et la planification de la maintenance à long terme. De plus, le suivi des résultats climatiques dans le portefeuille demeure inégal. La banque ne dispose pas toujours d'une vision cohérente dans les performances, une vision cohérente des performances et des résultats générés par les interventions climatiques. En résumé, l'ambition au sein de la Banque africaine de développement en termes de changement climatique et croissance verte est forte, mais la profondeur de mise en œuvre et le suivi des résultats doivent être renforcés. Les conclusions de cette évaluation ont directement contribué à renforcer le nouveau cadre stratégique de la Banque sur le changement climatique et la croissance verte, actuellement en cours de déploiement. La transition en cours inclut le passage de l'engagement politique à une mise en œuvre systématique, le renforcement de l'intégration, de l'adaptation, notamment dans les secteurs fortement exposés, et enfin l'établissement des systèmes plus clairs pour le suivi des résultats climatiques. En d'autres termes, la Banque africaine de développement passe désormais de l'intention à la pratique intégrée, des déclarations aux résultats concrets et vérifiables. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for that concise but very comprehensive presentation. And just carrying from where you've left off, I would like now to invite Davina, We'll reflect on how the bank is applying the lessons and the evaluative insights, bridging policy intent and operational reality, and scaling up green growth and climate resilient investments across the continent. Davina, over to you.
Right. I hope you can hear me well. Thanks, Christine. Thanks, Joseph, to take us backwards. Actually, this is about 10 years since the period was, just so we're clear, until 2018. And if you look through the prism of the Paris Agreement, which is the climate regime we are in, that was just when it was starting. And it's good to reflect on the journey to really see the shift that when we get together, what can happen. So very clearly, as indeed Joseph has pointed out, back in the day, our focus was on mitigation, and mostly the metrics we had really looked at climate through mitigation. But it became very clear that for developing countries, climate is actually an adaptation, first and foremost, an adaptation issue, because as he rightly pointed out, we are at a 4% emission contribution. So our lens on climate change is adaptation, and as the African Development Bank, we've really taken that on. We were the first MDB to get at 50%, the first multilateral development bank of climate finance as adaptation. And over this period, let me just show you the statistics. So we at the African Development Bank, we really have 4 corporate targets when it comes to climate finance. We made a commitment in 2020 to raise about 25 billion until 2025. And to date, we are at 19.7. And let me just show you that in 2020, we were at 2 billion in terms of climate finance. That number, year on year, has grown to about $5.4 billion as annual climate finance commitments through our pipeline, that's through our projects. And then as at Paris in 2015, the bank made a commitment together with other MDBs on the target of how much funding will contribute to climate. And that, as a bank, we made a 40% increase from back in the day, I think it was 27. And since then, we've had in 2020, we had 34. To date, we are in 2023, we were moved up to 55. 2024, we're slightly below, but still above 40%. 2024, which is the last year that we've accounted, is at 49. Then on the commitment to have at least 50% of our annual climate finance as adaptation, since 2020 we were at 37. 2021, it also, because of COVID, was down to 33. 2022, we are at 37. Sorry, I'm reading mitigation. 2020, we are at 63. 2021, we are at 67. 2022, 63. And 2023, 53. And 2024, 56. So we're still above the 50%. Then the other one is, how do we then translate that in our pipeline? Because ultimately, a climate resilient pipeline translates into the climate core benefits. So at 2020, we were at 88% of our portfolio climate proofed, as in we do climate screening to see the impact, whether it is negative or even positive. So we make sure that there are climate core benefits. So that was at 2020, we were at 88. It moved to 92 in 2021. 2022, we are at 94. 2023, we are at 97. 2024, we are at 98. So it's a progressive growth in terms of making sure that we mainstream climate. But those are targets. What has happened since, I think in very practical ways, is that in 2020, in 2017, 2 years after the Paris Agreement, in the period that we're looking at the reports, we created what we call the Africa NDC Hub. What does that do? We realized that the task of supporting climate was not enough. The bank alone could not do it. So we brought along other partners, mostly UN agencies and other partners that were involved in climate on the continent. So the Africa NDC Hub was created so that we have a coordinated approach. We become efficient on how we use our resources. We have since created, since last year, the first climate financing, dedicated financing for our low-income countries through our Africa Development Fund. This is all towards making sure that we scale that number of 4% of global climate access to what is required, as Joseph's presentation showed. Because clearly, when you look at the impact, Africa is one of those regions that are highly impacted based on the vulnerability, not where the impacts are strongest, but the ability to survive the impact. I'll give you a case. When Mozambique was hit by Cyclone Idai in 2019, 2 billion was wiped up by just one cyclone. Ever since that, they've been hit by 5 cyclones. So you can imagine the impact on their balance sheet as a country. So, so we look at climate as an impediment of development. And so with what these evaluations do, it is to scale up ambition. Because every time these numbers come out, we're looking forward to the next one of the evaluation to see how much we can do more to make sure that our dollars go more in creating resilience. And this is not just the bank, as African Development Bank, we're doing it as a system, as AfDB's. We've created what we call AfDB's Paris alignment methodologies and a framework and a commitment that we're all going to align our operations to the objectives of the Paris Agreement. As the African Development, that commitment was made for this year that will be fully aligned. So we've put in place systems to align our operations towards that. So I'll stop here since we don't have much time, but I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you so much. Really, those it's very nice the way you've described since the evaluation, the period that it covered, what has happened in practical terms up to this point, and we can see really a lot of progress. So maybe I'll come back to you with a few questions as we start receiving the questions in the chat. The first question is coming from Arunjana Das to Joseph. And the question is, you mentioned that green growth and climate change mainstreaming has been more difficult in the transport sector as opposed to the energy sector. So the cluster evaluation in the link above, it cites the lack of a strategic framework and harmonized technical standards as the reasons, among others. Could you please elaborate a bit on that? And maybe after you elaborate on that, Davina could also probably weigh in from an operational perspective. What is the implication? What are the barriers? What has influenced the difference between the performance in the transport sector and the energy sector? Over to you, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. I think here the main challenge is not the lack of commitment, but uneven operational integration between different sectors. And I can point out to 3 main barriers. The first one is the capacity and tool that vary between sectors. Some sectoral teams have climate risk screening embedded, while others do not. The second, time and resource pressure often push climate consideration to later stage of design. And the third one, there is a limited incentive to prioritize long-term resilience over short-term delivery. I stop there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Davina, do you have anything to add?
Let me just say, indeed, maybe for our viewers, the period we're looking at when this evaluation was done, this again was 2 years. The cover, it starts way before the Paris Agreement and ends as it's starting to get in place. So ever since then, a lot of metrics, a lot of tools have come to play that the next evaluation will really highlight the big, oftentimes when you're in this space, you don't really see how much this has grown in terms of community, in terms of the tools that we use. And indeed, when you look at the transport sector, when you compare it on the energy sector, of course, energy sector is renewable. So those numbers are very easy. It's solar, so you can mostly look at it. When it comes to the transport sector, most times is how do we make sure that this built environment, whether it's road, whether it is a BRT, that it's resilient. And oftentimes, those adaptation metrics back in the day, we didn't really have them. They are now on stream. We have common MDB methodologies on tracking, and those have evolved in terms of quality. And so when you look at, I give an example here, Abidjan, the metropolitan of Abidjan, it has a comprehensive built environment around transportation that has all, whether it includes BRTs from the airport all the way to all the neighborhoods, that is all part of the building. And this is also very critical, again, because 75% of Africa's infrastructure is yet to be built, most of it in the road sector. And so as we create new climate resilient infrastructure, that will contribute, that will show how much we've moved. Let me just very quickly point out that we have a continental program called the Alliance of Green Infrastructure for Africa, that the bank is also a member. It has all these other institutions such as Africa 50, Africa Exim Bank, the African Union, all coming together to ensure that the 75% of Africa's infrastructure yet to be built, most of it around the cities, that it's built in a climate resilient way. And it has two ways. It becomes resilient, but also contributes on emission reductions, because a lot of it comes with electric vehicles. The latest statistics, actually, Africa has, the electric vehicle use has moved to 178% since when that came, because of policy support. So all these things are done. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks. And I think just moving forward, there's some questions related now to the element of finance. There's one question that's coming from William Stebbins. Did the type and availability of global climate finance in any way affect the balance of the focus between adaptation and mitigation? Over to you, Davina, for that one.
Right. Did the type and availability of global influence affect the balance between adaptation and mitigation? In a way, yes. Let me just give a bit of historical background. The climate finance is out of a negotiation, so it's a political arrangement. So it came from what was called the Kyoto Protocol, which had a clean development mechanism, which tracked carbon credits and carbon trading. The carbon credit was a mitigation arrangement. And so until the Paris Agreement, it is, in fact, that CDM is yet to be phased out. So we're still in that regime of trading carbon, and those carbon assets are mitigation assets. And oftentimes when we speak about global climate funds in the sense of mitigation. And until Glasgow, which was 20 21, the COP there, that there was a global goal on adaptation. And so what developing countries have pushed is to have, much as we have the whole construct around mitigation and climate finance, the whole Paris Agreement, it's really a construct of contributing towards minimizing the temperature goal. That's a mitigation goal. What about adaptation for those that are not contributing towards the emission? How do they survive? So that global goal on adaptation is aimed at that. And indeed, the numbers and in terms of adaptation finance are still very low. Growing, yes, but still very low. So the targets to increase adaptation, it's in the right direction. We as MDBs have committed to the 50%. Most of us are on that mark. The African development leading the charge. We've always been above because of the constituency that we are in. And definitely, I agree. The whole construct of the convention, because it's a political negotiated arrangement, is around a temperature goal, which is a mitigation goal. Thanks.
Thank you,
Kristen,
Davina.
I can add something.
Yes, Joseph, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to emphasize on why adaptation still lag beyond mitigation. As you know, adaptation benefits are real, but less visible and harder to let's say to measure. Just because they do not always produce immediate financial return, making them harder to justify in investment decision. This is one of the reasons adaptation still lag beyond also mitigation. Thank you.
But let me just also say that we actually do have metrics for adaptation finance tracking as MDBs, and we've done it over there. So if you look at the MDB annual climate finance report, you will find that we report both adaptation and mitigation. So we have metrics to measure that. Yeah.
Okay. No, it's actually a good way to move on to the next question, because it will just be maybe a little bit more explanation of this discussion we are currently on. Alexandre was asking, in terms of MDB alignment, how does the monitoring and reporting aspect work, and what kind of harmonization is prevalent among MDBs on M&D and reporting when it comes to green growth and climate change? So maybe just expanding on what we're already discussing, Davina. Thanks.
Right. So when MDBs make commitments, they do them as individual institutions because of their independent or individual mandates and the regions that they serve. We have MDBs across all regions, from Asia all the way to the Americas. And ideally and the international ones, like the World Bank. And so what in the Paris alignment, that framework called MDB Paris Alignment Framework, we have metrics to measure what we do, but we don't jointly report. What we jointly report is our climate finance annual reports. Each MDB uses those M&E standards within the framework to individually report where they are on that spectrum, because the commitment was by each MDB. So we have common standards, but we don't jointly report our alignments. What we report jointly is our climate finance. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, time really flies. So just very quickly, because I see we only have two minutes, what specific actions are being taken to ensure that climate finance reaches the most vulnerable communities, most affected? This is coming from Abdiare. So very quickly, maybe you can respond to that and we finish the session.
Quickly, I mentioned that we have, for the first time, under our Africa Development Fund 16th replenishment, a dedicated window called the Climate Action Window that specifically deals with fragile low-income countries. These are grant financing, and it is both at national level and subnational level. And there have been calls for proposals. In fact, the last one went out for technical assistance. And so ideally what these all go to ensure the issues around access is either lack of bankable projects. And you go to these countries, there's enough in terms of need, but it's not articulated in a way that it brings finances in. So how do we create that capacity? How do we create the right environment? How do we get all the financiers together? That's what the climate action window is. Second, we've created the energy mission 300 to halve the number of Africans that don't have energy access. As you know, it's 600, so the mission 300 is to target half of them by 2030.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but let me close by saying at the Africa Pavilion, all these ideas will be presenting over the 2 weeks. So for those that are in Belém and want to learn more, please join us there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all our participants who've joined us. 30 minutes is enough to have an introductory discussion, but as you've heard, we have some sessions that are going to be happening at the Africa Pavilion live streamed. And at the same time, on the 14th, we are going to have 2 sessions with IDEV, one on energy and one on transport. We invite you to also join those. They're 30-minute sessions online, so you can join from wherever you are. So let me take this moment to quickly thank our speakers, to thank the organizers of the E4CA Pavilion, the technical team and the interpreters for supporting us to make this event happen. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.